There are days when the world feels too loud. Invitations pile up, picnics, parties, weekend gatherings. Yet deep down, all you crave is a moment of solitude. Not because you dislike socializing, but because you need space to think, reset, and escape the constant noise. But here's the truth. Being alone doesn't automatically mean you're making the most of your time. You can spend hours scrolling mindlessly, watching TV without purpose, or letting your thoughts spiral into negativity without actually growing. So, how do you turn solitude into strength? This is not about withdrawing from the world. It's about mastering the art of being alone with purpose. The great Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, understood that true power comes from within. They knew that solitude, when used wisely, is not isolation but a gateway to self-improvement, clarity, and inner peace. If you've ever felt restless when alone, unsure of what to do with yourself, this video is for you. We'll break down the exact ways to transform your alone time into the most valuable asset in your life. Whether it's for mental resilience, emotional independence, or unlocking your full potential, this is how you turn solitude into self-mastery. Now, tell me, how do you usually spend time alone? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's dive in. 1. Master your time alone. Turn solitude into self-development. You tell yourself that when the weekend comes, you'll finally do something productive. You'll read that book, start that project, and hit the gym. But when the time arrives, the reality is different. You wake up late, scroll through your phone, watch a few meaningless videos, and suddenly the day is gone. And then comes that familiar feeling, the quiet frustration of wasted time. It's not that you don't have time. It's that when you're alone, you don't know how to use it effectively. You end up filling the space with distractions instead of purpose. You tell yourself you'll do better next time, but next time arrives and the cycle repeats. What if the problem isn't time, but how you approach it? Great men don't waste solitude. They don't see it as an empty space to kill with entertainment. They use it as a tool to sharpen their minds, strengthen their bodies, and build something meaningful. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all understood that self-mastery begins when you stop relying on external structure and start directing your own actions. Richard had to learn this lesson the hard way. Richard was a man driven by routine. A finance executive, his life was dictated by emails, meetings, and constant obligations. His schedule was full, his time was accounted for. But when he unexpectedly found himself with a free weekend, he saw it as an opportunity. No deadlines, no commitments, just time for himself. He told himself he would wake up early, go for a run, and maybe even cook a healthy breakfast. He planned to read a few chapters of a book he had been neglecting. He thought he would make the most of this solitude. But when Saturday morning came, he hit snooze. 5 minutes turned into 10. Then 20. By the time he got out of bed, it was nearly noon. Annoyed with himself, he grabbed his phone. He told himself he'd just check a few messages. Then came the news, the scrolling, a YouTube video, another and another. The hours blurred. He kept telling himself he'd start his day in just a little bit. But a little bit stretched into the evening. By Sunday night, Richard felt something deeper than frustration. He felt powerless. He had wasted 2 days, not because he lacked motivation, but because he had no system for his time alone. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Richard realized that his problem wasn't free time, it was his inability to direct it. He was disciplined when work dictated his schedule, but when left to his own devices, with no external pressures, he crumbled. So the next weekend, he changed everything. Instead of drifting through his free time, he structured it. He treated solitude like an appointment he couldn't miss. He set an alarm and got up immediately. He wrote down 3 priorities for the day. Nothing vague, but specific, measurable actions. He committed to training his body first thing in the morning, a run before breakfast, no excuses. He read, but this time he didn't just skim. He took notes, reflected, and applied. By Sunday evening, everything felt different. Instead of feeling restless and disappointed, he felt sharp, clear-headed, and in control. Wasting time alone is like owning a gym membership but never lifting a weight. The potential for growth is there, but if you don't show up and put in the effort, nothing changes. Picture your alone time as an unshaped block of marble. You can leave it untouched, let it gather dust, let its potential go to waste, or you can chip away at it, refine it, sculpt something valuable from it. Every hour alone is a chance to craft a stronger version of yourself. If you feel lost in solitude, don't fill it with distractions. Give it direction. Instead of waking up and reaching for your phone, reach for a book, a notebook, or a goal. Instead of passively watching entertainment, actively build something. Your body, your mind, your skills. Instead of thinking, I don't know what to do, decide in advance and commit to it. Your time alone is either a tool or a trap. The choice is yours. 2. Building emotional independence. Stop seeking validation. There's a certain unease that creeps in when you're alone. No texts, no calls, no social plans, just silence. And in that silence, a question emerges. Are you truly comfortable with yourself, or have you just been distracting yourself with others? Most people don't realize how much they rely on external validation until they are forced to sit in solitude. If being alone makes you restless, if it makes you question your worth, it's not solitude that's the problem, it's dependence. When your confidence is tied to social interaction, you become vulnerable. You rely on approval, companionship, and attention to feel whole. But what happens when those things disappear? Do you start to feel invisible? Do you question your importance? If so, then you've built your identity on something fragile, the opinions and presence of others. The moment you're left on your own, the illusion fades. The solution isn't finding more people to surround yourself with, it's learning to stand alone without feeling lost. The Stoics understood this deeply. A man is only free when his emotions are his own, not dictated by the moods, opinions, or presence of others. If you can learn to enjoy your own company, you become untouchable. No rejection, no absence, no criticism can shake you. Mark had spent his entire life avoiding solitude. He couldn't sit at a cafe alone. He couldn't go a weekend without plans. If his phone was silent, a creeping anxiety took hold. He measured his self-worth by how much he was wanted, how many invitations he received, how often his presence was requested. His life felt full, always busy, always surrounded. But deep down, he knew the truth. His confidence only existed when other people were around to reinforce it. One day at work, he asked a colleague what his weekend plans were. The man, calm and assured, simply replied, I'm going to the park to paint. Mark laughed at first. Who does that? Who chooses to be alone, deliberately? It sounded foreign, even unsettling. But that night, he couldn't shake the thought. A man who was completely at ease with himself, who didn't need noise, distraction, or approval. A man who simply enjoyed his own presence. That weekend, for the first time in years, Mark tried something different. No plans, no texting to see who was free. Just him, alone with his thoughts. At first, it was unbearable. The silence was loud. The urge to check his phone was overwhelming. He reached for it out of habit, then stopped himself. Instead of escaping, he stayed with the discomfort. He went for a walk, sat on a park bench, observed the world, not through the lens of conversation or performance, but simply as a participant in his own existence. And something changed. In that stillness, he realized he had never really known himself. He had always defined himself through others, how they saw him, how they responded to him. But here in solitude, there was no audience. Just him. By the end of the day, he felt different. Not lonely, not restless, but centered. Most people fear solitude because they fear what they might find in it. They fear the thoughts that arise when no one else is around to drown them out. But those who master solitude master themselves. Imagine standing in the middle of an ocean, completely alone. Some people would panic, desperate for a boat, a signal, a rescue. But others, those who know themselves, would embrace the vastness, knowing that real strength isn't about being surrounded, but about being whole on your own. A man who is emotionally independent does not beg for connection. He does not seek constant reassurance. He does not crumble when left alone. Instead, he walks into solitude with confidence, knowing that his value is not something given by others, it is something he carries within himself. If being alone makes you anxious, ask yourself why. What are you avoiding? What part of yourself have you neglected? Epictetus once said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need a constant company to feel complete. When you let go of the need for external approval, you gain something far greater, self-respect that cannot be taken away. If solitude makes you uncomfortable, lean into it. Get to know it. Make peace with it. Next time you find yourself alone, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it. Let it teach you something. That's where real growth happens. 3. Mastering your direction. Crafting a life plan in solitude. Life has a way of carrying you forward, whether you actively steer it or not. When you're young, you can drift, opportunities come, people guide you, and decisions seem to unfold on their own. But at a certain point, drifting is no longer an option. If you don't take control, life will take control of you. That's why solitude isn't just a moment of peace. It's a necessary tool for recalibrating your direction. If you don't spend time alone reflecting on where you're headed, you risk waking up one day in a life you didn't consciously choose. You risk becoming a person shaped entirely by circumstance rather than intent. A man without a plan is a ship without a course. He reacts rather than acts. He follows rather than leads. And most dangerously, he confuses movement with progress. Stoic philosophy teaches us that clarity of mind leads to clarity in action. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for the world to dictate his path. He used his time alone to examine his principles, refine his decisions, and live with purpose. Seneca wrote about preparing for the future before it arrives, ensuring that when life's challenges came, he wasn't caught off guard, but already prepared. The same applies to you. If you don't take time to sit in solitude, to evaluate your ambitions, your finances, your career, and your relationships, you will always be in reaction mode. Think of your life as a forest trail. Some men walk without looking up, assuming that as long as they move forward, they'll get somewhere meaningful. Others stop, take in the surroundings, and decide exactly where they want to go before taking the next step. Who do you think will reach their destination faster? We live in a world obsessed with busyness. People equate constant activity with actual achievement, but there's a difference between being occupied and being effective. Some men wake up, go to work, finish tasks, come home, and repeat, believing that because they are constantly moving, they must be progressing. But without direction, all that effort becomes motion without meaning. Think about a hamster on a wheel. It runs tirelessly and expends enormous energy, but ultimately it goes nowhere. Now contrast that with a lion. A lion moves with purpose. Every step and every action is calculated. It doesn't waste energy chasing distractions. It waits and observes, and when it moves with intent. Which one are you? The hamster, endlessly moving with no clear goal? Or the lion, deliberate and focused? The only way to ensure you are on the right path is to stop and reassess regularly. Use your alone time to audit your life. Are you moving toward your financial goals, or are you just working without a bigger plan? Are your relationships serving your growth, or are they just habitual connections? Is your time spent intentionally, or are you simply filling your days to avoid stillness? These are uncomfortable questions, but they are necessary. Most men avoid asking them because deep down they fear the answer. But facing them is the only way to take control of your life. Imagine a builder starting construction without a blueprint. He lays bricks, nails boards, and works tirelessly. But what he creates is random, unstable, and directionless. He confuses effort with progress. You are that builder. Your time is the raw material, and your choices are the tools. If you don't take time to sit alone and deliberately design the structure of your life, you'll end up with something that collapses at the first challenge. Take 1 hour every week, just one, and sit with a notebook. Write down exactly what you want in the key areas of your life. Not vague wishes, not daydreams, but clear and actionable goals. What does your ideal financial situation look like in 5 years? Where do you want to be in your career, and what's the next step to get there? What kind of relationships do you want to build, and which ones should you let go of? You don't need a perfect plan. You just need a direction. Without one, you're leaving your future up to chance. There are 2 types of regret in life: the regret of failure and the regret of never trying. The first one stings but teaches you something. The second one lingers forever. A man who never takes time to plan his life will eventually find himself looking back, wondering where the years went. He will see missed opportunities, wasted time, and the realization that his life wasn't truly his own. You have a choice. Do you want to build something solid, or do you want to hope that the pieces fall into place? If you don't decide where you're going, someone else will decide for you. Your employer, your friends, your family, society. And by the time you realize you're off track, years will have passed. Solitude is your tool to prevent that. It's where you take control before time slips through your fingers. Use it wisely. 4. Discipline your body. Master your mind. You can have wealth, you can have knowledge, you can even have a clear vision for your future. But without health, none of it matters. A weak body leads to a weak mind. A sluggish body leads to a sluggish spirit. Strength isn't just about lifting weights or running miles. It's about resilience, endurance, and discipline. When you spend time alone, the most valuable investment you can make isn't in entertainment or distraction. It's in building the foundation that supports everything else. Your body. Many men believe that discipline starts in the mind. The truth is, it starts in the body. A man who cannot control what he eats, how he moves, and how he cares for himself will struggle to control his thoughts, his emotions, and his actions. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw the body as the vessel through which we experience life, and neglecting it was a form of self-betrayal. Marcus Aurelius trained daily, not for vanity, but for mental clarity and physical resilience. Seneca spoke of endurance, of temperance, of using discomfort as a tool for sharpening the mind. Your body is not separate from your philosophy, it is a direct reflection of it. A man who lacks control over his body lacks control over his life. It begins with small, seemingly insignificant choices. The alarm rings in the morning. Do you get up or do you hit snooze? You have an hour free. Do you train or do you sit scrolling through your phone? You feel stressed. Do you go for a walk or do you numb yourself with junk food and alcohol? The answers to these questions shape who you become over time. The man who disciplines his body builds endurance, not just physically, but mentally. The man who sharpens his body sharpens his willpower, not just in fitness, but in every challenge life throws at him. The man who pushes himself through discomfort in training learns how to endure discomfort in business, relationships, and personal growth. This is why so many men feel lost when left alone. They don't know what to do with their time because they have never trained themselves to take control of it. Solitude is your opportunity to break free from that weakness. Instead of treating your alone time as a void to be filled with distraction, treat it as your personal training ground. In the modern world, fitness is often reduced to aesthetics, abs, muscle size, and weight loss. But true strength is not about looks, it's about functionality. A strong man can work long hours without breaking down. A strong man can protect himself and those he cares about. A strong man can endure pressure, stress, and setbacks without crumbling. Think of a soldier preparing for battle. He doesn't train for the mirror, he trains for survival. He strengthens his body because he knows that one day it may be tested in ways he cannot predict. Life is no different. You don't know when your body will be pushed to its limits through illness, hardship, or crisis. Train now so you are ready when that moment comes. When you're alone, you have a choice. You can use your time passively, letting your body deteriorate while your mind grows weaker. Or you can use solitude as a tool for transformation. Wake up early and train before the world demands your time. Move your body even on the days you don't feel like it, because discipline is built in discomfort. Treat food as fuel, not entertainment, because what you put into your body determines how well it performs. Make discomfort a habit, because the man who voluntarily embraces challenge becomes unbreakable. There's a reason why men who let their bodies fall apart often struggle with confidence. Your body is the first place where you experience mastery. If you can't control yourself at the most basic level, your health, how can you expect to control anything else? A man who is physically weak becomes mentally hesitant. He starts doubting himself. He loses his edge. He avoids conflict because he no longer trusts his own strength. He makes excuses instead of improvements. Now picture the opposite. A man who knows he is strong, capable, and disciplined. He walks differently. He speaks with more conviction. He faces challenges head-on, not because he never feels fear, but because he has trained himself to push through it. This is not about ego. It's about self-respect. If you cannot respect your own body, how can you expect the world to respect you? If you do not take control of your health now, at what point will you decide to? You can put this off. you can tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. But the truth is, if you can't commit to something as fundamental as your own body, you will struggle to commit to anything else in life. Every time you train, you are making a statement, not just about your fitness, but about your ability to control your own destiny. Your alone time is not empty time. It is the forge where you temper yourself into the man you are meant to be. Use it well. 5. Trusting your own judgment. Decide for yourself. How often do you pause before making a decision, waiting for someone else's opinion before taking action? Most people do this without realizing it. They ask what to eat, where to go, and what career move to make. They hesitate, fearing that if they decide alone, they might choose wrong. But a man who cannot make decisions on his own will always live according to someone else's desires, not his own. It's one thing to seek wisdom from those you respect. It's another to be paralyzed by the fear of making a wrong choice. If you always wait for approval, you will never act with conviction. You will second-guess yourself at every turn. You will hesitate when boldness is required. And worst of all, you will never truly know what you want, only what others have convinced you to want. The Stoics warned against this. Epictetus spoke of the importance of controlling our own minds, of filtering out the noise of the world so we could think clearly. Your life is not a democracy. The more voices you invite into your decisions, the less certain you will be of your own direction. When you are alone, you are forced to confront this reality. You no longer have the crutch of outside opinions. You must learn to trust yourself. Emma had always surrounded herself with people. She wasn't afraid of being alone, but she had unknowingly let others shape her decisions in small, subtle ways. Where to eat, what to drink, how to spend a Saturday night, she never thought much about it. Someone in her circle would suggest something, and she would go along with it. It was easy, it was comfortable. But one evening, she found herself without plans. At first, she reached for her phone, tempted to text someone and ask, "What should we do tonight?" Then she paused. Why was her first instinct to wait for someone else to decide? She put down the phone and made a decision. She would go out alone. She picked a restaurant based on her own preferences, not anyone else's. She ordered exactly what she wanted without wondering what someone else would think. When she finished, she walked to a cafe, ordered her favorite drink, and sat in silence, completely content. It was a small act, but for the first time in years, she had chosen without external influence. And in that moment, she realized how much she had been outsourcing her own life. Decision-making is a muscle. The more you rely on others, the weaker it gets. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Most people avoid decision-making because they fear the consequences of being wrong. But mistakes are not the enemy. Indecision is. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path is well lit, filled with people calling you forward, telling you it's the right way. The other is unmarked, uncertain, silent. Most men choose the first path, not because it's better, but because it feels safer. But safety does not lead to strength. The men who shape the world, the ones who stand firm in the face of chaos, are the ones who learn to walk the unmarked path without hesitation. The truth is, no one knows what's best for you better than you do. The people around you can offer suggestions, but they do not live your life. They do not bear the consequences of your choices. Only you do. If you don't develop the ability to think independently, you will spend your life asking, "What should I do?" instead of saying, "This is what I'm doing." Stop outsourcing your decisions. Stop seeking validation before moving forward. When faced with a choice, decide quickly, act with conviction, and take full responsibility for the outcome. A man who trusts himself becomes unstoppable, not because he is always right, but because he is never afraid to make a move. The next time you hesitate, waiting for someone else to tell you what to do, don't. Choose, trust, move. Because if you don't learn to trust yourself, no one else will. 6. Breaking free from society's expectations, defining your own life. The world is filled with voices telling you how to live. Social media, advertisements, the opinions of strangers. Everywhere you turn, there is someone trying to shape your decisions, define your success, and dictate your worth. They tell you what a successful man should look like, what car he should drive, what kind of woman he should date, what career path he should follow. And without realizing it, Many men spend their lives chasing these artificial standards, thinking they're making choices for themselves, when in reality they are simply following a script written by someone else. This is the greatest trap of modern life. If you do not define your own path, someone else will do it for you. Society sells you an image of what a good life looks like. A high-paying job, a luxury lifestyle, approval from peers, the admiration of others. But let's step back for a moment. Who decided that these things are the ultimate measure of success? And more importantly, do they actually make you happy? Many men blindly pursue status symbols, thinking they will bring fulfillment. But how many times have you heard of someone who achieved everything they were told to strive for, only to feel empty inside? The expensive car, the perfect house, the impressive title. None of it means anything if you are living a life that is not truly yours. The Stoics warned against this illusion. Epictetus wrote, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" He wasn't talking about material wealth. He was talking about choosing to live according to your own values, not someone else's expectations. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, by opinions, trends, and endless comparisons on social media, it is nearly impossible to know what you truly want. Your thoughts are drowned out by the influence of others. But when you spend time alone, something powerful happens. The noise fades, the pressure lessens, and in that silence, you start to hear your own voice again. You begin to ask yourself, am I pursuing this goal because it genuinely fulfills me, or because I think it will impress others? Do I actually enjoy this lifestyle, or am I just trying to fit in? If no one was watching, would I still make the same choices? Most men never ask themselves these questions. They are too busy running toward the next milestone, the next purchase, the next approval. But when you take a step back and reflect in solitude, you gain something rare: clarity. You begin to separate what you truly value from what you have been conditioned to value. One of the most damaging things a man can do is live for the approval of others. When your happiness depends on likes, compliments, and external validation, you are not in control of your own life. Think of a man standing in front of a mirror, adjusting his suit, fixing his hair, practicing his best angle, not because he likes how he looks, but because he is desperate to be seen in a certain way. His confidence is not real. It is borrowed from the approval of others. Now imagine another man who wakes up, puts on a simple outfit, and steps outside without hesitation. He does not seek permission to be himself. His worth is not determined by the opinions of strangers. This is the man who is truly free. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about that. Why do we trust the judgment of the world more than our own inner voice? Why do we spend so much time chasing admiration instead of chasing meaning? Success is not about meeting society's expectations. It is about living in alignment with your principles. It is about waking up each day knowing that you are making choices because they are right for you, not because someone else told you they were right. A man who defines his own success does not need validation. He does not fear rejection. He does not waste time comparing himself to others. He chooses his career path based on passion and purpose, not on how impressive it sounds. He builds relationships based on genuine connection, not on superficial status. He pursues goals that challenge and fulfill him, not ones designed to impress a crowd. And most importantly, he does not live on autopilot. If you never step back and reflect, you will continue moving in the direction society pushes you. You will chase things that don't matter. You will waste years of your life trying to be someone you're not. But if you use your alone time wisely, if you sit in silence and ask yourself what truly matters, you will gain something most men never have: control over your own life. No one else can define your path. No one else can decide what success looks like for you. That is your responsibility. If you do not claim it, the world will claim it for you. Choose wisely. 7. Mastering your thoughts, controlling your mind. Your mind never stops. It runs like an engine, constantly processing, analyzing, and overthinking. And if you don't take control of it, it will control you. Most men don't realize this. They assume that every thought that enters their mind deserves attention. They let worries spiral out of control. They allow self-doubt to dictate their decisions. They drown in stress, never questioning if it's even necessary. But the truth is, not every thought deserves your energy. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, spent his mornings journaling, not to write about grand conquests, but to filter out the useless noise in his head. He understood that if he couldn't control his thoughts, he couldn't control his actions, and neither can you. Most of what you worry about will never happen. Think about that. How many times have you spent hours stressing over something, only for it to turn out completely fine? How often do you replay past mistakes in your head, even though they have no effect on your future? Your brain is wired to focus on threats, to anticipate danger, to prepare for the worst. This is a survival mechanism, but in modern life, it often works against you. If you don't train your mind, it will magnify every minor problem, making you believe you're constantly under attack. You will live in a state of anxiety, even when there is no real threat. But here's the key: you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. The moment you realize this, everything changes. Imagine standing on a busy street, watching cars pass by. Some are fast, some are slow, some are loud, and some are quiet. Your thoughts are like those cars. They come and go. But here's the difference. You don't have to get into every car. You can choose which thoughts deserve your time and which ones you should let pass. Most men don't do this. They react to every thought automatically. They assume that if something enters their mind, it must be addressed. But a man who controls his mind knows that most thoughts are just noise. Some are fears that will never happen. Some are regrets about things that can't be changed. Some are distractions, pulling you away from what matters. And if you treat every thought as important, you will never have clarity. So how do you train yourself to master your mind? How do you stop being a slave to useless thoughts? The first step is to write it down. The moment you feel overwhelmed, put it on paper, not on your phone, not in your head. Physically write it down. Journaling is not just for philosophers. It's for warriors, strategists, and men who need clear thinking. When you write, you see your thoughts objectively. You separate reality from paranoia. You take control. The second step is to question every thought. Not every thought deserves belief. Ask yourself, is this thought based on fact or fear? Will this matter in a year? Is this something I can control? If the answer is no, let it go. The third step is to create a mental barrier. When an unhelpful thought enters your mind, visualize a gate. Decide if it's worth letting in. If it's constructive, allow it. If it's destructive, block it. If it's irrelevant, ignore it. The more you do this, the more disciplined your mind becomes. An undisciplined mind is like a storm. Chaotic, unpredictable, destructive. A trained mind is like a sword. Sharp, precise, controlled. Most men walk through life with a storm in their heads, wondering why they feel anxious, lost, and overwhelmed. But the ones who rise above, they sharpen their minds daily. This is not about suppressing emotions. It's about choosing which emotions deserve your attention. It's not about never feeling doubt. It's about not letting doubt control your actions. It's not about never experiencing fear. It's about moving forward despite fear. A weak mind is controlled by emotions. A strong mind controls emotions. A weak man reacts. A strong man chooses his response. Every day you are faced with a choice. Let your thoughts run wild or take control of them. If you do not learn to master your mind, the world will master it for you. And a man who cannot control his own thoughts will never control his own destiny. So ask yourself, who is in control, you or your mind? 8. The power of solitude, turning loneliness into strength. Most people fear being alone. They equate solitude with isolation, thinking that if no one is around, they must be missing out on something. They keep their schedules full, their social calendars packed, and their notifications on, afraid of silence. But what if being alone is not a weakness? What if it's actually a tool, one that, if used correctly, can transform you into a stronger, more self-assured version of yourself? When you're alone, there are no distractions, no masks to wear, no roles to play. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to meet expectations. It's just you, stripped of all the noise. This is the perfect moment to ask yourself the real questions. Who am I without validation? What do I truly want? Where am I going and why? Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, spent hours in solitude writing his thoughts, not for others, but for himself. He understood that before he could rule an empire, he had to rule himself. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, believed that time alone was the only way to sharpen the mind, to separate what matters from what doesn't. They didn't fear solitude, they embraced it as a gateway to self-mastery. Yet in modern life, we do the opposite. We use technology to fill every gap of silence. We scroll endlessly, consume mindlessly, and surround ourselves with noise, avoiding any moment where we might actually have to face our own thoughts. The result? We become disconnected from ourselves. We start seeking external approval to define our worth. We lose touch with our own instincts, relying on the opinions of others to tell us how to live. But the truth is this: if you cannot be alone with yourself, you will never truly know yourself. If you always need a company to feel complete, you are not complete at all. You are dependent, and dependency breeds insecurity. The strongest men in history were those who learned to stand alone, who knew their worth even when no one was watching. Because when you can stand alone, you can stand anywhere. Think of solitude as a forge, a place where raw metal is shaped into a blade. Heat and pressure transform something ordinary into something sharp, precise, and unbreakable. In the same way, time spent alone shapes your mind. It forces you to face your weaknesses, question your beliefs, and refine your character. It strips away the superficial and leaves only the essential. The problem is that most people don't know how to use solitude. They mistake it for loneliness, allowing it to consume them instead of empowering them. But solitude is not the absence of people. It is the presence of self. It is the opportunity to build resilience, to learn what drives you, and develop the kind of inner strength that no external force can shake. So how do you turn solitude into strength? Start by using this time wisely. Instead of drowning in distractions, engage in deep self-reflection. Write down your thoughts, your fears, and your goals. Look at them objectively. Ask yourself if the life you're living aligns with the values you hold. Question everything, because the more you understand yourself, the less the world will be able to manipulate you. Second, build something in silence. Whether it's your physical strength through training, your mental clarity through reading, or your discipline through structured routines, use your alone time to construct something meaningful. When no one is watching, who are you? What do you create when there's no applause, no instant gratification? The man who can work in silence, who can build without the need for external approval, is the man who controls his own destiny. And finally, learn to detach from the fear of missing out. Social pressure will try to convince you that if you're not constantly engaging with others, you're falling behind. But real progress happens in the quiet moments, away from the crowd. The most valuable insights, the deepest transformations occur in solitude. Many fear being alone because they equate it with being forgotten. But a man who has mastered solitude does not seek to be remembered. He seeks to be in control of himself. When you no longer fear your own company, when you can sit alone in a room without needing distractions, without needing validation, you become truly powerful. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't waste it. Don't numb yourself with distractions. Don't seek an escape. Instead, use it. Use it to sharpen your mind, strengthen your will, and understand yourself in ways that the outside world never will. Because at the end of the day, the only relationship you are guaranteed to have for life is the one you have with yourself. The time you spend alone is not empty. It is full of opportunity. It is where you discover your inner strength, sharpen your mind, and free yourself from the distractions that pull you away from who you truly are. Every great thinker, every leader, every man who has ever built something of value understood this. Solitude is not isolation. It is preparation. You've now seen how time spent alone can be used to develop your skills, build emotional independence, craft a clear life plan, strengthen your discipline, master your mind, and redefine your relationship with yourself. The question is, will you apply it, or will you continue filling every silent moment with distractions? Most people fear being alone because they fear facing themselves. But if you avoid solitude, you avoid self-awareness. And without self-awareness, you have no control over your life. The Stoics knew that true power comes from within, not from approval, not from external success, but from mastering one's own mind and actions. So here's your challenge. Dedicate time each day to be alone, without distractions. Use it to reflect, to plan, to train, to think. Find what truly matters to you, not what the world tells you should matter. Learn to enjoy your own company. When you do this, you become stronger, more decisive, and more grounded in your own values. Now I want to hear from you. How do you spend your time alone? Have you ever had a moment where solitude led to a breakthrough? Share your story in the comments below, because your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear.